Hey, it's Will Ripley with JamPlay.com. So what we're going to be getting into is part 2, right hand technique. Now, if you haven't checked out part 1, I'd really recommend getting into that. And if you'll remember, we've got the way we hold the pick, we've tweaked that, make sure we have our finger curl around there. We're getting our hand on the bridge using this little section of our hand. And when we do that finger curl, it sets up our wrist at a nice angle where we can use the pick on the edge. If you don't have those guys down already, and if you're not using those in your riffs already, then make sure that you do that. Go back, watch that video, work on those riffs, incorporate this into what you're playing already, okay? So what we're gonna be getting into right now is how to incorporate like more than one string. We've only talked about using one string, so what happens when we use a scale? Actually, speaking about previous videos, I talked to you about your left hand technique, and we're gonna be using this chromatic style scale, and it's really, really basic and easy because we just wanna be able to shut off our brains, and so we don't have to really focus on the left hand, okay? So the left hand looks something like this. You can see it's just 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. That's what we're gonna be doing, just using all 4 fingers, tips of your fingers. So now this is all about single note riffs and scales and stuff like that. So now firstly, I want to show you something. When I get all the way up to the top string of this scale, now I know I told you that you'd have your right hand planted on that bridge, right? So you'd have your hand right there. And now if you're trying to reach the top note, now that's going to be a pretty far stretch, right? You're going to have to tweak your wrist. You can see that my wrist is going at a kind of a weird angle right now just to reach that top string, right? So that's not really ideal. Now, what we actually want to end up doing is gliding our hand along the bridge so that when you're playing solos, like lead parts, riffs, licks, anything like that, when your left hand is moving down, your right hand is right there with it, providing that stability that you need. Your right hand is gliding right along that bridge all the way. So I'm just gonna show that to you real quick using this chromatic style scale. Like I said, we're gonna just shut off our brains. We're not gonna really focus in on the left hand too much, but the right hand is where it's at in this particular lesson. So here we go. So you can see that as I'm moving down to the top strings, check it out. All of a sudden, I'm not on this part of the bridge anymore. My hand's way down here. So if I do that a little bit faster, right, you'll see that my hand just glides along that bridge, providing that stability that we need, okay? Now, there's actually a cool extra added bonus with gliding your hand along the bridge. Check this out. Now, if we kind of go back to that bad technique that I was showing you earlier, this is what a scale might sound like. And I want you to really pay attention to when I'm not playing. Okay, check this out. Right, there's a lot of string ring happening. Basically, when I'm playing the notes, like other strings are just making the whole guitar vibrate and making other strings ring. So what's really cool about this is you can eliminate that string ring entirely, okay? Because what ends up happening is when you're trying to reach this top string, say, when you're way up here, you'll see that this little thumb cushion is totally on top of the other strings, right? It's just resting on the other strings. I still have that stability going on with the bridge with my right hand, but, you know, and that's how you avoid tweaking your wrist, okay? So when you're way up here trying to reach that top string, you can see that my thumb is all over these other strings. Now check this out. I'll do that exact same thing that I showed you earlier, but I'm gonna incorporate all this new solid technique with my right hand, and I'm gonna be able to stop the strings. And I think you'll notice that there's a big difference, okay? So you'll remember we had all this this string ring coming off the guitar. Now check this out. My hand will actually touch the strings, glide along the strings, while providing me that stability and stopping the strings from ringing by themselves. Check this out. Pretty clean, right? Compared to So this is something that you can do right away that's going to make your guitar playing sound more pro instantly, right? Because especially with electric guitar, if you're dealing with distortion and stuff like that, I mean, we want to stop the unnecessary strings from ringing, right? Because that's just going to sound really sloppy. So we can really tighten up your guitar playing with this one little trick. So there's a lot of stuff that we've gone into with the left hand and right hand technique. Now, as you can imagine, it's pretty important to have that foundational layer down so that when we go into, more riffs, power chords, bar chords, like soloing, like all this kind of stuff, all that stuff that I'm sure that you want to get to with your guitar playing, right? But to get there, you need to have that foundational layer solid with your guitar playing. And it really comes down to that left hand technique, which, as you know, isn't too much, especially in comparison to the right hand technique. So super quick overview with the left hand. What we've got is mostly with scales and stuff like that, we're gonna have our thumb placed in the back of the neck, right about the middle, and the thumbs up position. And what that's gonna do is you just have to imagine if you were to reach out and grab something, you're gonna pinch it with your thumb and your fingers, right? So that's just gonna give you a little bit more muscle on the guitar neck, right? So that's why it's helpful to have the thumb in the back of the neck. And with the left fingers, what we got going on is basically just, playing close to the frets, playing on the tips of your fingers, right? And you never want to have your fingers hanging over or anything like that. Nice, just anywhere on the tips of your fingers and just close to those frets. And we talked about this chromatic style scale that's going to activate all of your fingers, right? And then we can just focus on this technique. All the scale is just a sequence, right? That's very memorable. And that way we can work out all of our left fingers. We're just taking our fingers to the gym, right? Just lifting, pumping some iron with our left hand. And with the right hand, we want to focus in on all these different techniques. So firstly, how we hold the pick with our finger curl, getting that thing down here, which sets us up at a nice angle. And then we're hitting the pick on the edge of the string. We talked about alternate picking, which is down and up picks. Okay, and that's certainly what you want to incorporate when you're using this chromatic style scale. So we want to go down, up, 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 and so on, right? Because you want to develop your upstrokes and your downstrokes equally. And then we talked about as we glide down that scale, we also want to glide our right hand. So our left hand and our right hand work together, right? So when we get down here, you can see that my hand is right on top of the strings. It's okay to have your hand on the strings that you aren't playing, okay? Because they're gonna mute the strings that you don't want to have ringing. So it ends up being a pretty cool added bonus. You'll be able to tighten up your guitar playing here, make everything sound cleaner, and this is really gonna set you up for that speed and finesse and just control, okay? Control on the guitar, okay? So now we've got a scale, we've got a riff already, so work on those guys, and we're gonna get into some really cool stuff here in the next few videos, so stick with me, let's start ripping it.